Okay, well, we'll just go ahead and jump into it. Today we have Deborah Green. You're a former dispatcher and now looking to dispatch the stigma of PTSD. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, it's getting into fall, so my favorite time of the year.
Mine too. Thanksgiving's all right. I like the food, but I can't wait for Christmas. Christmas is the one I always look forward to every year.
Yeah.
All the family time. So, Deborah, let's start with who you are and
Who
what
I
brought you
am.
to this podcast. Yeah.
Um, well, I'm a retired dispatch with 30 years of law enforcement under my belt. Um, and in 2019, I had a critical incident that kind of was the straw that broke the camel's back, and I lasted one more year and was diagnosed with PTSD. And so now I'm retired and living the best life.
Nice. Well, it's nice that you're living the best life. I'm excited to learn how you went from retiring due to PTSD issues to living your best life. So dispatching. My mom was a dispatcher. Did you enjoy dispatching?
I loved the job.
Yeah.
I loved being able to go into the office and not have a stack of paperwork to do. Though,
Yeah.
once I started doing other things in dispatch, I had always had a stack of paperwork to do. But, in the initial phase, you go in, every day is different. Every day you're dealing with something new. And I really enjoyed that. And I also enjoyed the public service part of it.
Right. That's awesome. Do you have any like fun memories? Like what was like your funnest moments
Oh, Oh, good
or
gracious.
funny? Like I know there's sometimes my mom, she had some funny ones. Like I would listen to them, get the banter back and forth. You would see a lot of the
Oh
fun.
yeah. I think um having one of my deputies went in pursuit of a cow once. That was kind of
High speed
interesting.
chase there,
High
yeah.
speed chase of a cow. I was giving a a a BOL, or be on the lookout, broadcast, and one of my units asked me for the description again, and and I gave the description. It was something in regards to a bear, and I said he's large, brown, and hairy. And he said, "Hey, not 40 Edward." What the description of the suspect? I mean, you kind of get that being in a smaller department. You kind of get
Yeah,
that kind of stuff going on. So
the fun
it.
banter.
Oh yeah, it's just you have it's like one big family. But graveyards is why we have policies. So
Yep, absolutely. So, you had a rough call, to say it nicely, and that led to potential PTSD symptoms or PTSD. And I was curious, like, were there any signs for you that something was amiss or something was going a little bit wrong for you personally?
well, I had a lot of anger issues afterwards.
Yeah.
Of just being short with people and not knowing why. Um,
Mm,
all the normal grief stuff that you go through, crying on the way home, crying on the way to work, just not wanting to come to work. It was just a lot of things, and I didn't have a supportive supervisor at the time, so she went the disciplinary route rather
yeah.
than the "oh my gosh, there's something wrong with you" route.
Yeah.
Which another supervisor finally stepped in and said, "There's something wrong with her. We need to get her taken care of."
Yeah.
So, um, that's when I filed for workman's comp. Um, and I was the first dispatcher to do so with our department.
Yeah.
Um,
A workman's comp for PTSD, correct?
yeah.
Or yeah. Yeah, I feel like
Um,
leadership as well as us as individuals, there needs to be more training for us for PTSD as well as for supervisors to identify it, because I feel like disciplining someone struggling with PTSD is just like throwing fuel on a fire. It
oh, it
just kind of
definitely
makes it
made it
worse.
worse. It made it
Yeah.
worse to the point where, I was going in for the quote unquote counseling session, and I yelled at her.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm done with this. What are you
Mm,
doing? So, maybe it wasn't the best thing to do, but, it was what I did at the time. And I was kind of standing up for myself as far as that was going on, but not realizing that how bad it had gotten.
right. So when you got workman's comp, did you also get a therapist or start seeing someone to talk about
Well,
maybe some of the stuff?
yeah, I had been in therapy since 2016. So my incident happened in 2019.
Right.
In 2015, I had open heart surgery.
Okay.
Um, and
Scary.
yeah, very scary. That in itself caused a lot of actual PTSD also. Um, so I had started in therapy then, and had been in a weekly support group for depression, anxiety for almost 3 years.
Mm,
Um, and they cut me off of that they stopped that program where I was going to just before this incident happened. But had I not been going to therapy already, I would have been much worse than I was,
right.
and probably wouldn't have even gone back to work after the incident rather than
Hmm.
lasting a year. So
Yeah.
I did have some tools, but didn't realize the extent of the trauma.
I was going to ask you, what kind of tools did you have?
Um, I went to a lot of anxiety and depression classes and learned about the cycles.
Yeah.
So, how your thought cycles, how thinking this is going to lead to this, to this, to this, and then breaking that cycle and learning how to break that cycle so that you don't get into the spiral.
Yeah.
And
I struggled really
um,
hard getting stuck in loops and it was just never ending. Like I'd be triggered. And then after that, it's like 2 days later, I'm still in the same loop.
oh yeah, I mean, it would just be just horrific, just getting
Hmm.
into that cycle and learning meditation. I did a lot of journaling,
Yeah.
which really helped. It just
Hmm.
getting it out,
Yeah.
just pulling it out of my head, getting it there. And I would fill up a book. I'd just get the spiral bound notebooks and then I go burn it when it was full. And it just said, okay, there you go, off to the nether. You can,
Yeah.
all of that is gone, and, just start another one. So kind of
Nice.
freeing, actually.
Yeah. Sounds like it. What was I gonna ask? Something about meditation. Some something I've found is like meditation, it gets you like present in the moment. Journaling does too. And that's why I find both of those very useful and helpful. Like gives you that moment where you're just like present. And then you can collect your thoughts. And then after that, like you said, get your thoughts on paper. And then you have an idea of like what's really bothering you. At least that's what I used it for. I
Yeah.
was able to identify like, oh, okay, like I keep thinking about the same stuff again. Like maybe there's a way to resolve this.
Yeah. You
I was
just get
gonna,
into that little cycle over and over and over, and the what ifs, and it's
yeah.
it yeah, breaking that is the best thing to do.
I was gonna ask you, open heart surgery. What about that? I mean, besides the obvious, what bothered you? Like, was it the realization of how fragile life is, how close like how quickly it changes from life to death to just the fear? Like,
Well, I didn't have time to a lot of people have time to um accept the fact that they're going into surgery.
right?
Mine was so quick that I was diagnosed, and within 4 weeks I was in surgery.
Yeah.
Um it was for a congenital heart defect that needed it was on my aortic valve. So I had an aortic valve replacement.
Mm,
And so it wasn't like a bypass surgery or anything
right,
like
right.
that. Um
Still terrifying. Yeah.
it is, but there's also a
Mm.
condition called post perfusion syndrome,
Hmm.
which happens when you're put on the bypass machines. Um, and it causes in some people microbleeds in the brain, which can emphasize depression and anxiety.
Hmm.
So knowing what I did for all those years
Yeah.
and having all these traumas building up on top of each other, not realizing it, when I had the open heart surgery, it all came, it increased by tenfold. And so
Yeah.
that's when I first realized, what effects the job actually had on me,
Hmm.
and started the process of therapy. And so, having weekly support sessions, and then having a therapist that I saw after that really helped.
Yeah.
Um,
Support session and support structure, like it's one of the most vital things that you can have. Someone, like a group of people that you can be completely honest with, and they can also hold you accountable in ways.
oh, definitely,
Hmm.
and um, after I was signed out by the psychiatrist, I started um, it was kind of to how do I explain this? To be accountable to myself. So what
Yes.
I did was I went on to Facebook. I posted on Facebook and Twitter every day at the end of the day what one positive thing happened to me that day.
Yes. That's cool.
And
Yeah.
and I did that for 2 years straight.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Every day. What is that positive? And when it finally got to the point where it was like, I just had a good day. And when I had just a good day, 5 days in a row, I said, I think I'm having good days, and I think we're done with this little process,
Yeah.
you know. And
Yep.
but I didn't stop going, looking at the positive things. It always, I kept doing it in my own mind. Okay, I had a really good day today, or what was positive today, without having to be accountable for
Hmm.
everybody else.
Right. Gratitude. When I was at my lowest, I was really dark, and what got helped me get out of that was for 3 months straight. Every day I would spend however long it took to pick three things that I was grateful
Mm.
for, and like at a deep level, not just like I'm happy that, my lights work, or, it was
Oh
more
yeah.
like who I'm happy or what I'm happy about, and then like really the impact it has on my life. And I was just talking to a friend about that because he was going through some depression issues, and he had the same thing. He's like, it helps because I feel like we focus so much on negative that we almost just take the positive for granted sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah. When
Yeah.
you're in the when you're in that spot, that's all you can see.
Yeah.
Sometimes is just the darkness, and trying to find that one little light, and that's your little rope to pull yourself out of the hole.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, what have you done since the incident and retiring that's helped improve your quality of life? Dealing with the PTSD, improved PTSD symptoms, or just anything overall you like to share with people? Be like, hey, if you're struggling, this is something that's helped me. This is what I'd suggest.
When I was signed up by the psychiatrist, she and I had a little bit of an argument because she was taking me out of an environment where I had contact with people
Mhm.
and interaction with people, and I was feeling like I made a difference, that I was useful, and
Yeah.
taking me out of that situation and putting me into four walls with nothing to do but
Yeah.
be in my own head. And she and I had an argument about that, and it took 2 weeks for her to find. She actually had to call my administration and tell them that
Hmm.
she wanted me out, away from work, and I was refusing. And so finally I went out. But when you go from being busy, being useful, to doing nothing, literally sitting, so I had to come up with a plan. So what I did was, I was a graveyard worker. So what I did was I, went to day shift. So I put myself on a schedule. I was in bed by 11 and up by 8. I had to
Mhm.
be out of bed by 8. If I got up earlier, that's fine. Um and then I would go outside and walk every day.
Exercise. Yeah.
And getting out in the fresh air. And this was during COVID too. So, we
Yeah.
were still on, restrictions and stuff. And so every time I would have to go to the store, you're wearing a mask and you're trying to, seclude yourself. So getting out in the open air without a mask on, it did wonders for my mental health.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still, I was listening to podcasts about mental health, and it kind of sent me back into that little spiral again,
Yeah.
because, I was going through this, and I was only seeing my psychiatrist once a week, maybe twice a
Mm-hmm.
week, in the beginning. And so I had to find some way of getting to breaking out of that cycle. So I found just fun podcasts to listen to, uh, not even mysteries, but off the wall stuff like UFOs and
Yeah.
that kind of thing, just to get away from law enforcement, from mental health for a
Yeah.
while, just to
Yeah.
lighten my mood maybe.
I
And
have a podcast on PTSD, so I feel you because I really love it. I love talking about PTSD and the effects and stuff like that. But then I flip right over to my brother and cousin's podcast, and it's just about football. And it's just, they're the funniest two people in the world. And it's so lighthearted. It's just like, I tell them, like, I'm the fiber, they're the sugar, it's like in
yeah,
my life, because we definitely need it. Like, I feel like all this stuff's really valuable and important, but
just
oof,
getting
don't do it
away
every
from,
day.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Sometimes it just, I didn't start listening back to law enforcement podcasts or
Mhm.
anything mental health related until the first of this year. Um,
Okay.
just I felt more comfortable now
Yeah.
that, I'm actually facing it and saying, okay, I've got this thing. So let's see what we can do to help others that have this thing too,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I like that. You hit on a few things that I also value, like routine. My routine also consists with trying to go to bed at a normal time, because I feel like if I go to bed at the same time and sleep the same time, then my sleep cycle's improved. And sleep's one of the biggest proponents of depression, anxiety, if you start getting lower amounts
Mhm.
of sleep, and it really impacts my PTSD in a bad way. The other one's exercise. I really love exercise as well as outdoors. I was just talking to someone yesterday who does another podcast. I can't remember. His name's Dr. Quackenbush, but it's a
Oh yeah,
great last name.
I've actually sent
Yeah.
him a message, Dr. Quackenbush, if you're listening, I did send you a message.
Yeah. He's good, but he's like, there's power in being outside,
Oh
as well as
gosh, yeah.
I did a podcast with Outward Bound, and those guys, that's what they, guys and girls, that's what they do, is they take veterans or first responders with PTSD, take them out in nature and just like reconnect with the world. And then they have a rule. It's like no cell phones, nothing like that. And it's just being present in the moment. So I really
Oh
like
yeah.
all that stuff. And I appreciate you sharing that. Is
Yeah,
there,
my former employer they sent me to a trauma retreat that had
mm,
horse therapy. And instead of sitting in a
mm,
room and talking about our feelings, we were sitting out in a field talking about our feelings, and then,
yeah,
working with horses at the same time. And it was absolutely wonderful.
I haven't
Best.
tried that yet. It's definitely on my list because you can tell how, like, horses are prey, so they're very aware of your emotions because they feel the tension, so
Hmm.
like they're really somatic experiencing. There's a ranch right next to my house that does it, and I don't know why I haven't done it yet, but I'm very excited to
Oh,
try it because they show you exactly what you're giving out,
oh,
and it makes you
they,
more aware
yeah,
and
they do.
present. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
they do.
cool.
It's a
Awesome.
lot of fun.
Have you tried anything else new or exciting since
No,
getting out?
I just being away from work has
Yeah.
helped a lot.
Yeah.
Not that I did a 12-hour shift at my current job a few weeks ago, and I'm going, how the heck did I do this all
Right.
the time?
Yeah. Exactly.
My shifts now are 6 hours. I do just 2 days a week, and then I also do childcare for my grandson who's special
Hmm.
needs. And so, we have a lot of fun. And he's in the habit now. He's 3, and he actually does my 3 miles with me
Oh
now.
wow.
Yeah,
That's cool.
walking alongside. And he's a little spitfire, but yeah, he loves walking and gets mad when I don't take him out every day when we're here.
Yeah.
So this week should be fun because we're expecting a big storm to come in. So we're going to be inside a lot. So I'm sure I'm going to get yelled at.
That's awesome. You did say getting when we spoke last time, you said leaving work helped, and I could definitely see like quality of life improves when I don't have to work too. But I was thinking about what you do as a dispatcher, and like you're able to facilitate help and facilitate opportunities to get help. But a lot of times you can't help, and you're
Right.
aware of a situation and there's limitations on what you can do. And the pressures of that to me would be very uncomfortable, not being able to help because I'm one of those people that like to be in control, and
Oh my
hearing a
gosh. Yeah.
situation going down
Yeah.
and just being limited. Like I bet being away from that environment was very
Well,
refreshing too.
when I started this whole law enforcement career, I was a military police officer in the
Mhm.
California National Guard. And so when I went into dispatch, it was hard for me to sit in that chair and not run
Yeah.
outside, jump in my car and go to where
Go help.
they needed.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I feel you. Yeah,
You
there's
know?
when I was in Iraq, we had a rotation where we're on base. No, it was off base, off base, and then ops. And when we're in ops, we're basically a dispatcher. All we did was take
Mm.
notes, communicate, and talk. And it was the worst day of my week because
Isn't it?
you'd hear the
Yeah.
guys just getting some or being in the middle of stuff, and it's like you wanted to be there.
Yeah. Well,
So
and that's the whole personality too.
yeah,
You're there, you want to be doing something, and
that's why we do what
sitting
we
in a
do.
room is kind
We
of hard
want to
to
help.
do.
Yeah, it really is. So you left work, you got out of it. Did
Mhm.
you feel like you lost your purpose a little bit? Maybe
In the beginning,
lost.
I definitely did.
Okay, because
Um,
that's where I'm going with this. What are you doing now to get that purpose back, to feel like you have a purpose in
so
life?
now I'm advocating by going on podcasts,
Yeah,
lots and lots of podcasts, and advocating for better mental health for first responders and telling
awesome.
my story
I appreciate it.
because I just want to help that one person.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's why we all are out here walking around with microphones, trying to share the stories, listen to other people's stories because we want to help. What things would have helped you, like in your situation?
Oh my gosh. I think had somebody told me 30 years ago to go get a therapist because your job is going to require it,
Yeah,
would have helped. And I think maybe getting that word to the top cops and the chiefs, fire chiefs, and the medics, medic companies, and applying this to their academies
yeah,
and even dispatch academies, and having more than just an 8-hour
yeah,
day to talk about mental health and spreading it throughout that academy, even if you have to add a week to an academy to get that mental health stuff done, is going to be so important for retention, for
yeah,
officers, for dispatchers, for firefighters, and maybe even getting this into the military also for basic training.
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, how many of us went through basic training and afterwards, the whole time they're telling you to suck it up, oops,
Yeah,
you fell in that hole. Oh, well, get back up and let's move
yeah,
on. You can't stop now, but then after, because what their job in is basic training is to break you down and then build you back up.
yeah. And the image and likeness that they want. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But there's nothing for to keep you where they want you,
yeah,
and definitely nothing to transition you from that fighter, that soldier, to civilian life.
yeah. Hmm.
And so having this mental health program within the military and within this first responder community will help a lot in that transition going from working to retirement.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the big ones that I would like to see changed. We had mental health in the military, but we always knew that we couldn't be 100% honest with them, because if we were,
Mm-hmm.
we would lose our jobs, which I feel like is the same thing that's in a lot of places in the civilian side, whether it be
Mm-hmm.
nurses, doctors at hospitals. Like, you could lose your whole life, your whole career, if you're too honest with the therapist. So it's really like, because I think that in itself is taboo. Like, which would you rather have? Someone who is suffering from PTSD chronically and coping with it in negative ways like alcohol, drugs, whatever it may be,
Mm-hmm.
or someone who's seeking to get a better way to deal with it? I'd
Oh,
probably take some.
exactly.
I'd much rather take someone who's going about their approach in a healthy way, learning how to meditate, or learning how to eat better, sleep better, go outside and exercise, than someone who doesn't know what to do, who's just doing whatever they're doing to try to heal with it. No, it's just, it doesn't make sense to me. So I think having an independent mental health that's not involved with your employment is something that we really
Oh,
need to,
most
like,
definitely.
yeah. I don't know if you had that experience at your work. Like, did you feel like you could be open with your mental health, like
Well,
at
I
the
didn't give him
office?
a choice.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly did. I had an intervention from one of my supervisors and a friend of mine to get me into therapy in the first place
Yeah.
back in 2016, and I was not quiet about it.
Yeah.
I wanted people to know that, this job sucks at times and you're going to need to talk to somebody, and I was a very, very much advocating at that point,
Yeah.
and I don't believe that just because we go and see a psychiatrist, we should be in fear of losing our jobs,
Right.
because that psychiatrist is actually helping us deal with all the problems that, I mean, I would much rather have my backup unit going to see a therapist and be able to shoot his gun if he needs to, than not being able to see a therapist and me dying because he can't shoot his gun to save me.
Yeah.
I
Locking
mean,
up. Yeah.
that's, you know, the blunt
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. I feel like if you're physically sick or uncomfortable, or you feel like there's something wrong, there's lots of things you can do to prevent it. You could exercise, you can work
Mm-hmm.
out, that makes your body strong. You can go to the doctor in the hospital and, like, they fix things. They give you advice on how to eat better, do things like that. But when it comes to mental health, it's like, it's almost frowned upon to make that stronger, to,
Well,
like,
and
pursue
I
that.
I don't. You're not as old as I am, and I remember back way back when, and it wasn't talked about. The
Yeah.
guys coming back from Vietnam, you didn't talk to them.
Yeah.
How many of them have committed suicide because they had nobody to talk to? They had that horrific stigma,
Yeah.
of people hating them, along
Yeah.
with coming
All the
back with all
traumas
these
that they
these
saw.
traumas, and I had talked to my mom's cousin, and he actually was glad that I had started talking about it,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
he that whenever I would ask questions when I was younger, everybody's like, "Oh, don't talk to him about that," but he really wanted somebody to talk to about it.
Yeah. That's what I've noticed too. Once I started talking about it, there's a lot of other people, they won't talk about it in front of others, but they'll be like, hey, and they've been like, it's almost like they've been waiting their whole life to talk about it. And
Oh
I'm like, yeah,
yeah.
send it. I'm like, this is my favorite thing in the world to talk about, which is weird, but I enjoy it.
Well,
But
it's I say it's kind of like an hour of free therapy, you know?
yeah, yeah, like, I get a lot out of it too. Like, there's so many times I talk to people about, what they do, and what's helped them. And I find something new, and I'm like, oh, I'll try that. Like, I just started cold plunge,
Oh
which,
yeah, I was
it's
listening to
amazing.
your podcast that just dropped, I guess, the last week with Tall Tim.
Tall Tim. Yeah. I like Tall
I
Tim.
like him. I've
Yeah.
heard him on
He's,
several podcasts, and he's awesome. And him talking about that, and I'm going, yeah, no,
yeah. See that
I'm not gonna plunge.
I can do heat. I mean, I did the desert, all the deserts, did a lot of work in
Mhm.
hot, and I could do hot all day long, but I can't do cold. I've always hated
Yeah.
cold, but I
Mm-mm.
started doing cold
Mm-mm.
plunge. 2 weeks later, I was fine. I looked forward
Wow.
to it almost because the aftermath, like afterwards, I felt better. Like I do a lot of jujitsu at the moment, and it's like my body gets sore. It healed almost all of that. I wasn't as sore, or achy as
Oh,
much,
wow.
so I enjoyed it. But yeah,
Oh.
the initial first few were miserable. But I feel like that's all my questions. I really appreciate your story and your time. I love what you're doing. What's next for you? Like what are your next goals?
My next goal is maybe doing this live and in person at a conference.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
But it's down the road.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still, I'm still kind of I have stage fright, and this is more, I'm just talking to you where,
Right.
I don't see
You don't
the
feel all the other eyes.
right.
Yeah. Uh, there's a lady named Abigail Manning. She's a professional storyteller and also an advocate and, cheerleader for PTSD and like improving the quality of life for those in the first responder community. I would recommend going to look her up on Instagram and stuff because, not Instagram, LinkedIn. But her episode was really cool because you could see the correlation of learning how to tell a story not only reflects on how you understand your own story, but also project your story to others. And I've got a lot out of her too. And I
Yeah,
think
I'll have
she's
to look
awesome.
her
So
up. Yeah,
yeah,
and I've just kind of networking has been kind of fun, getting to know
it is.
people, and I didn't realize how much this community was in on LinkedIn. So, I joined LinkedIn, and holy moly.
Right. Yeah, I didn't either. It's just like blowing up. And I'm like, oh, okay. Hey, I don't do a lot on there, but every now and then I'll jump in and try to like as many as I can. But that's a good resource of finding people for sure
It
and
is.
connecting and
It
being able
is.
to talk directly to. I find doctors. Doctors are the hardest ones to find, except for on LinkedIn. It really helps me out.
Yeah, it's kind of it's actually been fun. But yeah, I
Nice.
just, just kind of developing like a presentation kind of thing. Um
Yeah.
but I want to gear mine more towards those top cops
Yep.
rather than and get to them and say, "Hey, you guys are the ones that need to do this.
Yeah.
We're trying down here to do this, and you're not listening."
Yeah. I know of one sheriff, and he mentioned to me that he's afraid to go to mental health. And I'm like, if you're
Oh,
afraid, then what all your subordinates feel the exact same way.
yeah.
It's like no one feels like they can go get help. And it's like you need to stand up and take action, change the
Oh,
stigma, change the
gosh, yeah.
culture there,
You know.
you know.
And
So
it's people like us that, going out there and talking about it, and is what's going to do it and what's going to
yeah,
change it.
I agree. And with that, I'll give you an opportunity. Is there anything you want to say that I might have missed?
No, actually, I kind of got most of it.
Nice. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Awesome. And then in the show notes, I'll have all of your information, anything you want to share with the group, and they will come seek you out if
Oh
they're
yeah.
interested in
I'm on
hearing more
I'm on
stories.
LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, but you won't find me.
You're one of those. Yeah,
I
that's
like I like hiding on Twitter, and
yeah.
I do other things there.
I have two actually I have three. Two professional ones, and then I have one in the background where I just watch,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Every
fun.
now and then throw a little poke to someone's direction. But yeah,
But yeah, I
Twitter's fun.
even did some TikTok too. That was kind of
Oh
fun.
wow.
So, but
I haven't ventured that route yet. Yeah.
we're I mean, mostly it's just advertising the podcast that I'm on. So, um,
We
but you never know.
never
Maybe
know.
I'll just have little tiny words of wisdom every once in a while.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Deborah. And with that, we'll wrap it up.
Thank you so much.